Hello, guys. Today we are looking at Silent Hill 3. This is a very conflicting game for me for a couple reasons. Where I think, in terms of like story and lore and even gameplay, this is kind of the weakest of the three. But Heather as a character is so interesting, and again, I feel like this is where Silent Hill really shines, where we're not just developing or going into a character analysis through a story, but the very fact that the character's subconsciousness is being exported and implanted onto Silent Hill, we really get a state and a look at their mental state and really get to know them as a character. And Heather is just really interesting. She's in this weird period in her life. I think she's roughly 17, so she's still becoming like an adult, but she's still kind of a kid. And so she has this immature nature about herself. She's very off-putting when the detective comes and tries to bring her to the rendezvous to her father, and she's very antagonistic towards him in almost a childish manner, but is also very like sensitive to his plight. And I don't know, she's just such a distinct and interesting character in that sense, and I just like her for that. I suppose. I guess I need to just get into it, I guess. This is where I feel like a lot of things started to go kind of off the rails. Some things just didn't feel right. For example, the opening section of this game is a carnival amusement park, and the whole creepy theme park thing, I get it. I get it, right? But like, that's a FNAF level, entry level sort of horror theme. Like, oh no, creepy theme park. Like, it was just, no, this is not Silent Hill. It was Silent Hill in their way, but it was still like, no, like the pink bunnies with the blood coming out of their mouth, like, oh, the contrast, wow. I was like, no, I'm not dealing with it. Also, that level itself, I have to admit, I was stuck on it for hours in the tutorial level, because at the point where you go up to the place where you have to get on the roller coaster, apparently it makes you, or you have to basically jump down to the tracks and run along the tracks to proceed. And I was so confused. I was like, no, there has to be a button here to call the roller coaster, but no, you have to press the action button to jump down. I literally almost put down the game and gave up in rage, and I just walked away until I figured out what I had to do. Another thing that also really annoyed me about this game that I didn't expect is there's this one part where you're in the subway and Heather is walking on these metal grates, and for some reason the sound effect of her walking on these metal grates was so loud and aggravating to me. It was literally painful to play that segment. It was just awful. Besides that, though, I love Heather as a character. There are other characters in this game. There's the detective, there's the cult leader, who is very weird because again, she shaved her eyebrows. And again, there's Silent Hill is all about these subtle things where you can't really tell why this is a problem, but there's something unnerving. It's never trying to shock you, it's trying to unnerve you. It's trying to affect your subconscious, not your conscious mind, with these weird things. And I love it for that. Another thing I absolutely love aesthetically are these save points in this game. Not only the sound they make, but the menu music when you are saving is so freaking cool. It's similar to Silent Hill 2 with the red effect, whatever, but now it's the Seal of Metatron. You're like, wait a second, that was in Silent Hill 1, and that's what Alyssa was using to, ward off the demons. And suddenly it gets really cool, because, so this is my problem, is that I played this game before Silent Hill 1, so I didn't appreciate all the references. I didn't realize that this is a literal sequel and a continuation of Silent Hill 1, even though it's called Silent Hill 3. And it's just, oh my god, I just had no idea just what I was in for. And that the fact you were playing as Harry's daughter, and his daughter in the first game was Cheryl, so she's called Heather here, and you're like, okay, wait a second, what's going on? And you're like, for those of you who played Silent Hill 1, you know exactly what is going on. There are some funny things about this game. For example, like I said, things like I know for the first time, I think a Silent Hill game, you have a submachine gun, like in this shopping mall. Like, I understand they're trying to like diversify their like weapon, loadouts and everything, make things more interesting. And I think Heather also gets a katana or something in this game. But when I saw that I had a submachine gun, I'm like, okay, this is kind of becoming Resident Evil. This is becoming like kind of action oriented. And that kind of happens very early in the game, and it kind of kills the momentum for me a little bit. There are a lot of other cool kind of scenarios like underpasses, sewers, the shopping mall is the big one, I think. And yeah, a lot of very just interesting environments that Heather goes through. And again, I just like her as a character. She's just very, I don't know, relatable, I guess, or interesting. So again, yeah, this kind of extends the story of the original Silent Hill game and kind of, concludes it. And, is a really nice send-off, I think. I think it's a great idea that they had this kind of, extended overarching story. And then, their second game would be just a one-off side story like Silent Hill 4. Something I need to talk about is that, again, I this isn't my favorite Silent Hill, but some of the dialogue here, I think one of my favorite things is when, I forget his name, but it's the guy with the glasses, and he looks at her and he says, you think you've been shooting monsters this whole time? And some of the monsters, they have voices. They act like they're people that know her. And so it's this weird thing where he tries to like freak her out where, he's not really sure. And I think that was in the trailer, but in the actual game, he immediately says, oh, JK, just joking. I was like, no, that'd be so cool if they just kept it as this thing where she is not sure if she's actually been killing monsters in her mind or real people. And I love that. That's so cool. The other thing that I was going to say I really love about this game is the soundtrack. Akira Yamaoka, I feel like he really does his best work in this game, despite it being the third one in the series. I think the opening kind of cutscene / music video, and I might be confusing or munging this, that there's a music video online for the main theme of this game, and it to me is so expressive of the true nature and vibe of this game more than the game itself, where it shows, Heather walking in these aimless directions in this white background, and the monsters kind of, turning these wheels and legs dangling from the ceiling. And very similar to, I would say, the actual depictions in Jacob's Ladder. And you just have these expressions and experiences that are just so interesting and so emotional, and just such a distinct vibe. The guitars, oh my god, the guitar like acoustic little pieces, and well, actually non-acoustic as well, in this game are just so moody, and they're not rock songs at all. They're just mood setters that are just so distinct. I don't know how else to say it, and they just really set a very distinct mood that complements Heather perfectly as like a young teen girl trying to figure out all this hellscape around her. What I also like about this game is the opening aesthetic. Heather, she's in this cafe, and you have this red sunlight coming through the window. Like, it's a sunset, but it's very red sun. And I just think it's so almost dreamlike and interesting that, I don't know, I feel this game more than I do the other games. The other games are intellectually very interesting, but for some reason this game is very emotional to me. I feel Heather's struggle. I feel her anxiety, her depression, her her struggles. It's so immersive and interesting. And at the same token, the overall feel of the game and the pace of the plot is just not as good as the other games, but it's good enough to at least experience this very unique thing. And again, when we dove into James Sunderland's world, we're diving into Heather's world, and it's just something just so interesting and unique about her other world, because it is a reflection of her mind. And it's something so personal and so human, and you just have to appreciate that, I guess. It's also interesting too that, of course, thankfully, Pyramid Head does not appear, in these games, because it's not Heather's guilt and her manifestation, and she has different manifestations. She has things that are all made entirely of legs. I think actually James had those too, but they were female legs. So Heather also has a lot of dogs, like two-headed dogs with a split head down the middle. So there's a lot of things in this game that are kind of implied and kind of indirect, and there's a lot of things I think in this entire series that are open to interpretation. Like, how does the other world actually work on a mechanical level? I'm not really interested in that. It just happens, and I'm just here to experience the ride. And again, you have the classical puzzles and combat and whatnot, and the rotation between those with cutscenes involving these odd characters. The ending to this game is very interesting because I would say it's very off-tone for a Silent Hill game, kind of, in that you just have to kill this giant big thing. And then after that, it's like, well, I guess that's it. Everything's resolved. That being said, of course, while I don't think it's, the best ending, I think it's still a pretty good ending. Even though it feels a little bit odd where, this giant weird manifestation, you just shoot it to death. Like, you don't have this weird, amazing psychological breakthrough and suddenly you can destroy it. You just have to shoot it till it dies, which is just kind of lame and not really on point. However, I will kind of bring up a counterpoint to this game, which is, of course, the Silent Hill movies, which are not great. But what I did find, just very quickly, the Silent Hill movies, they're very different. They change a lot of things. They kind of do their own thing with it. And while I didn't agree with everything they did, they still actually had a lot of interesting concepts there. I can't recommend them on their own, but some interesting concepts were in that interpretation of the game. And so one of them being that when they did their Silent Hill 2 sequel, which was, I don't remember what it's called, Homecoming or some godforsaken thing. No, that's one of the games. Heather and Harry essentially, what is it? Like Heather gets over her guilt and her depression, and through that she's actually able to summon Pyramid Head to fight for her, and this like WWE like ring of like psychological monsters. And so there's a female kind of Pyramid Head or scissor hand thing, and she's able to summon Pyramid Head to fight for her. And it's this weird kind of Pokemon, Carl Jung integration with the shadow kind of like concept, which I find just so weird and interesting. And it was introduced in the movie just as a random thing, and it lasted only like a few minutes, but I thought it was really, really cool. Like, what if every Silent Hill game, that person, after overcoming their grief and their sorrow and manifesting this thing from their subconscious, they could actually use that as a weapon or as a tool in other combat, in other kind of psychological scenarios or metaphysical scenarios. And I think that as a concept is just so deeply interesting and entertaining. And that was from the movie itself only, and really just never returned and never had any presence whatsoever after that. But I digress. Anyway, I love Heather. I love how this story kind of ends and kind of wraps up all the things. And, I have not yet played Silent Hill 4. I own it, but I haven't played it up until this time because I thought that's when the downfall really began. And the downfall of Silent Hill is a very sad story where basically they were giving it to Western publishers and other publishers to make Silent Hill titled games with companies that had literally no experience making games ever. Like, they're just right out of the block, right out of nowhere, just like, oh, our first game is going to be Silent Hill, because Konami, that owned this IP, did not care at all. And Silent Hill is in a very weird place right now where, like, you have Heather showing up in games like Dead Dead Daylight, Dead by Daylight, and others, these other survival horror, like arena style games, which are just very anti Silent Hill. They're not, Silent Hill is horror, but it's just more of a psychological thriller as well, rather than just normal, oh, the guy is going to kill me, oh no. This is about how do I deal with my guilt and myself, and just ask way more interesting questions. And I'm just, to compare it to that is just not appropriate and not okay. Silent Hill, it's in a very, very weird place right now, and I'm gonna get around to playing Silent Hill 4, and maybe by that time the situation will have changed. But for now, all I can say is that I don't have a lot of hope for the Silent Hill 2 remake. I mean, hopefully, like, get some people interested in the franchise, I guess. I have heard that Silent Hill Messenger, or like the Shortcomings, or whatever the hell it's called, where it's like a live stream reaction style all-in-one PS5 game, is abysmal and awful and is just not good in any way whatsoever, and I'm not surprised by that whatsoever. And the final bit of news is Silent Hills F, which is going to apparently take place in Japan, but is going to be written by Ryushiki07, aka the mastermind behind the Higurashi and Umineko series. And I cannot tell you how hyped I am for that, because we're at a point now where I'm literally looking at games being like, well, what's the writing like? What's the story like? What's the atmosphere like? Give me an idea rather than just a piece of, electronic entertainment. Give me something I can love and enjoy and consume. And in the case for Silent Hill, Ryushiki writes and deals with different dimensions, the aspects of love, belief, psychological manifestation, and great characters, and also at the same time messed up scenarios, murders, and all that stuff. He is the perfect man, and I swear to God that Silent Hill F is going to be a masterpiece. Like, it is going to be a work of art. And I might be completely wrong on that, but I'm saying it now, Silent Hill F is going to just blow everyone away, and I am so excited to see what comes out of it. I'm ready. Anyway, with all that being said, I'm saying there is hope for this series, despite all of the awful things, the Western releases, Downpour and Homecoming, which just crapped all over the series, and Konami and mismanagement in general. And I played a bit of Downpour, I've seen a bit of Homecoming, but I've never been like, yeah, that's Silent Hill, and I've never been like, yeah, I want to play that. So anyway, guys, there is hope. I'm telling you, there is hope in this series. Don't give up. And if you haven't played Silent Hill 3, it kind of wraps everything up very nicely. And I'll get back to you when I play Silent Hill 4. All right, guys, see you later. Bye.